In a small suburban town, rumors whispered of a videotape unlike any other. They said it was cursed. Those who dared to watch it would see disturbing visions, then receive a phone call with only 2 words, 7 days. Most dismissed it as nothing but an urban legend, a silly tale to frighten teenagers at sleepovers. Yet the story refused to fade. From time to time, people went missing, leaving behind untouched homes and terrified friends. Emily, a curious college student, had always been fascinated by mysteries. She loved exploring dark folklore and testing the boundaries of fear. When her roommate Claire revealed she had once seen the tape among her cousin's belongings, Emily's interest deepened. Claire's cousin had vanished years ago. The police said he probably ran away, but Claire wasn't so sure. The only clue he left behind was an unmarked VHS tape buried in a box of his things. For weeks, Emily pestered Claire about the tape, daring her to show it. Claire resisted, saying it was dangerous, but Emily's persistence eventually broke her down. One stormy night, Claire brought it out. The cassette was dusty, unmarked, its black surface smudged as if touched by countless fearful hands. Emily slid it into the old VCR. The TV crackled with static, the sound buzzing like a swarm of angry insects. Then the images began. First, a chair spinning slowly in a white room. Then insects crawling across a shattered mirror. Then faceless figures, their mouths open in silent screams. Finally, the tape showed a stone well standing in a field of dead grass, its water pitch black. Then the screen cut back to static. Silence filled the room. Emily turned to Claire with a nervous laugh. But before she could speak, the phone rang. The shrill sound froze them both. Emily picked it up slowly, her hand trembling. On the other end came a faint whisper, almost impossible to hear. 7 days. The line went dead. Claire's face drained of color. Emily forced a laugh, calling it a prank. Yet deep inside, unease rooted itself in her stomach. That night, Emily dreamed of water. She saw waves rising in her room, filling her bed, dragging her into a dark, endless depth. She woke gasping for breath. Her sheets were damp, though no leak could explain it. On the first day, nothing else happened, but Emily felt watched wherever she went. Shadows seemed to move when she turned her head. On the second day, she glimpsed the well in her bathroom mirror, rippling faintly as though reflected from another world. Claire grew increasingly uneasy and avoided Emily's gaze. "I told you we shouldn't have watched it," she whispered. By the third day, Emily's phone buzzed with calls from unknown numbers. Each time she answered, there was only static. That evening, her television turned on by itself, displaying nothing but the crawling static from the tape. She unplugged it in terror, yet the screen still flickered, humming with white noise. On the 4th day, she found strands of long black hair tangled in her pillow. They weren't hers. The apartment felt colder, the air thick and damp, as though the walls were sweating. By the 5th day, Claire had packed her things. "I can't stay here," she said. "It's following you now." Emily begged her not to leave, but Claire walked out, slamming the door behind her. Emily was alone. That night, whispers echoed from the corners of the room. They spoke words she couldn't understand, like broken fragments of forgotten voices. On the 6th day, Emily grew desperate. She searched online for answers, typing cursed tape into forums filled with terrified stories. One post read, "It's not a recording. It's a doorway. Once you've seen it, you belong to her." Another post claimed survival was only possible by making someone else watch the tape. The curse passed on like a sickness. Emily trembled as she read. Could she really condemn another person just to save herself? That night, she heard dripping water in her apartment. She followed the sound to her living room, where a puddle spread across the carpet. Droplets fell from the ceiling, though no pipe ran above. She looked closer. It wasn't just water, it was black like ink. The 7th day arrived. Emily's hands shook as she clutched the tape, considering who she could give it to. Every shadow seemed to stretch toward her. Every mirror showed faint ripples of water. At midnight, the television turned on again by itself. The static cleared and the well appeared. Emily stared, frozen, as the camera angle on the screen shifted, moving closer to the well as if someone was climbing out of it. A pale hand gripped the stone edge. Then another. Slowly, a figure emerged, a woman with long, black, dripping hair covering her face. Emily stumbled back in horror as the figure crawled out of the well on the screen. Then, impossibly, the figure stepped forward, climbing through the television as though the screen were only a thin veil. Water gushed across the floor as the figure dragged itself closer, its wet hair leaving trails like veins of darkness. Emily screamed, backing into the corner of the room, her body trembling uncontrollably. The figure lifted its head, revealing a face pale as death with eyes black as voids. The whispers grew deafening, filling Emily's ears until she could hear nothing else. She tried to look away, but her eyes locked with the creatures and her body froze. The last thing she saw before everything went dark was the figure reaching out, its hand cold and wet against her skin. The next morning, Claire returned, worried about her friend. She unlocked the apartment and stepped inside cautiously. The room smelled of damp earth. Water pooled across the floor, seeping into the carpet. The television was still on, buzzing faintly with static. The tape sat beside it, waiting. Emily was gone. No sign of her remained, except for the phone lying off the hook, faintly whispering static as though someone on the other end was still there. Claire's eyes drifted to the tape, dread filling her chest. She realized with sickening certainty that the curse was not finished.